Have you ever wondered why you can work 40, 50, sometimes even 60 hours a week? Do everything right, pay your bills on time, save a little, maybe even get that promotion, and yet somehow you're still stressed about money? You've got a decent job, you're not reckless with your spending, you're not out here buying yachts or designer handbags, and still it feels like you're treading water, maybe even sinking a little. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The middle-class dream that used to work for your parents or grandparents doesn't work anymore, not even close. The rules changed, and no one told you. You were told to work hard, get a good job, buy a house, save a little, retire at 65, and everything will be fine. That's the lie. It might have worked 30 or 40 years ago, but today, that strategy will keep you stuck. It will keep you tired, overworked, and underpaid, wondering what you did wrong when you actually did everything right. Look, I'm not here to sell you some hustle culture fantasy about working 80 hours a week or quitting your job to start a crypto empire. I'm here to tell you the truth about why working hard isn't enough anymore and what you actually need to do if you ever want to escape the treadmill. Because yes, it's a treadmill. You're running fast, but you're not going anywhere. My name is Michael, and I help people understand money the way school never did. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything you were told to do and still can't get ahead, you're not crazy, and it's not your fault. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why that's happening and what to do about it. Let's start with something simple. Hard work doesn't scale. You can only work so many hours in a day. You can only trade so much of your time for money before you hit a ceiling. That ceiling might be a salary, or an hourly rate, or a freelance project limit, but it's still a ceiling. You're capped. You can't double your hours indefinitely, but inflation sure can double your bills, and it has. A few decades ago, one full-time income could comfortably support a family, buy a home, send kids to college, and even take vacations. Today, two incomes can barely keep up with rent and groceries. That's not a personal failure. It's a broken system. Here's where it gets crazy. Productivity has skyrocketed since the 1980s. We're working faster, smarter, longer. Technology has made us insanely efficient, but wages, they barely moved. Corporate profits went up, CEO pay went up, housing costs went up, healthcare went up, but your paycheck, it stayed flat. So when you feel like you're working harder than ever and getting less out of it, you're right, you are. Here's the thing, most people don't realize. The entire middle-class model was built on the assumption that wages would grow with the cost of living. That was true when pensions existed, when houses cost 3 times your salary, and when a single job could support a family. But now, wages have completely disconnected from reality. So you end up in this loop where you're working hard just to survive, not to get ahead. And here's where it hurts a little. Because if you're watching this, there's a good chance you grew up being told that hard work is the answer to everything. You probably watched your parents or grandparents build a stable life doing exactly that. Working hard, saving a little, being responsible, but the system they played in is gone. They were buying homes for what we now pay for used cars. They had job security, pensions, affordable health care. You've got none of that. So when people say, you just need to work harder, it's like telling someone to bail water out of a sinking boat with a spoon. It's not laziness holding people back. It's the math. The math doesn't work anymore. Now let's talk about the illusion of stability. Because the middle class loves stability, the safe job, the steady paycheck, the predictable routine. It feels secure. But here's the truth nobody tells you. That stability is an illusion. You're one layoff, one medical emergency, one rent hike away from chaos. Companies don't value loyalty anymore. They value quarterly profits. That secure job you're clinging to could disappear tomorrow because a board decided to cut costs. Most people spend their entire lives building their identity around being a good employee. They do what they're told, follow the rules, play it safe, and they never realize they're just one spreadsheet away from unemployment. The middle-class dream teaches obedience, not financial freedom. It tells you to be dependable for someone else's business, but never to build anything of your own. Here's the part nobody talks about. The middle class doesn't actually own very much. They think they do, but they don't. They have mortgages, car loans, student loans, credit card debt. They don't own their house, they owe their house. They don't own their car, they owe their car. Everything they have is leveraged. Their lifestyle looks comfortable, but it's financed. The house, the furniture, the vacations, even the phone in their pocket, all debt. So when something goes wrong, the whole thing collapses fast. And that's by design. The system depends on you staying just comfortable enough to keep playing, but not free enough to walk away. If you're stressed, but not desperate, perfect. You'll keep working, keep consuming, keep paying. Let's talk about debt, because it's the middle class's favorite trap. Debt used to be a tool. Now it's a lifestyle. Credit cards, student loans, car payments, buy now, pay later apps. It's all designed to keep you feeling like you're moving forward even when you're actually sinking. You're told debt is normal, that everyone has it. And sure, maybe everyone does, but that doesn't make it smart. It just makes it common. Think about this. The average American household owes over $160,000 in total debt. That's mortgages, credit cards, student loans, auto loans, the works. And yet, most people don't see it as a crisis. They just accept it as part of life. Oh, everyone has debt. Yeah, and everyone's stressed out too. Coincidence? I don't think so. The emotional consequence here is exhaustion. You work all week, you get your paycheck, and before you can even enjoy it, half of it's gone to bills and payments. You're not working for yourself. You're working for the bank. That's not freedom. That's modern-day indentured servitude with better branding. Now, here's the part that stings a little. You were trained to think this way. School didn't teach you how to manage money. It taught you how to follow directions, meet deadlines, and memorize facts. It trained you to be a compliant worker, not a financially literate adult. You were graded on how well you followed instructions, not how well you thought for yourself. That's why the system works so well. It produces obedient employees, not independent thinkers. You were never taught how to build wealth. You were taught how to earn income. Big difference. Earning income means trading your time for money. Building wealth means owning things that make money while you sleep. Assets, investments, businesses, real estate. The system gave you none of that knowledge on purpose. Because if everyone knew how to build wealth, who would stay in the cubicles? Who would keep the machine running? Let's pause here, because this is where most people get defensive. They'll say, but I like my job. I like working hard. I like being responsible. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with working hard. The problem is when you confuse hard work with progress, you can run fast in the wrong direction. And that's exactly what's happening to the middle class. They're sprinting in the wrong direction. Let's break this down into a simple equation. Income minus expenses equals what's left. That's how most people think about money. I make X, I spend Y. Whatever's left, I'll save. But that formula guarantees you'll never get ahead, because no matter how much you earn, your expenses rise to match it. Lifestyle creep. You get a raise, you upgrade your apartment. You get a bonus, you buy a new car. You're not building wealth, you're just increasing your burn rate. Here's where it gets interesting. Wealthy people flip that formula. They start with saving and investing first. Income minus savings equals what's left to spend. They pay themselves first. Middle-class people pay everyone else first. The landlord, the bank, the government, and then hope there's something left over. That's why one group gets wealthier and the other stays stuck. Now, let's talk about the myth of the American dream. You were told that if you work hard, you'll succeed. But what no one told you is that success has been quietly redefined over the last few decades. It used to mean financial independence, owning your home, being debt-free, having time with your family. Now it means consumption. A bigger house, a newer car, more subscriptions, fancier vacations, brand name everything. Success became a performance. And that performance keeps you broke. Social media made it worse. Everyone's trying to look rich instead of actually being rich. So the middle class spends their entire paycheck chasing an image, while the truly wealthy buy assets and let their assets buy their image. The wealthy drive nice cars because their investments pay for them. The middle class drives nice cars because their debt pays for them. Huge difference. Here's a reality check. If your job disappeared tomorrow, how long could you live on your savings? That's your real measure of financial security. Not your salary, not your job title, not your car. How long you can survive without income? That's wealth. For most people, the answer is terrifying. A few weeks, maybe a month. That's not stability, that's vulnerability. And the cruel part? The harder you work within this system, the deeper you sink into it. Because working harder often just means paying more taxes, spending more on conveniences to save time, and burning yourself out faster. The system isn't designed to reward effort. It's designed to reward ownership. That's the truth nobody teaches, ownership beats labor every time. Let's talk about that difference. The middle class works for money. The wealthy make money work for them. When you have assets like stocks, businesses, or real estate, they generate income whether you're working or not. That's leverage. And leverage is the one thing the middle class never gets access to because they're too busy just trying to keep up with their bills. Here's where you start to see the lie unravel. You were told to get a good job with benefits, but what does that actually mean today? A job where you make just enough to stay comfortable, but not enough to walk away. Benefits that barely cover healthcare. Retirement plans that rely on you contributing your own money. It's not security. It's golden handcuffs. You're stuck, but the cuffs are shiny. Now, let's talk about inflation, because this is the silent thief that destroys the middle class from the inside out. Every year, your money buys less, but your wages don't increase fast enough to keep up. That's not accidental. It's structural. The economy grows on debt and spending, so you're encouraged to borrow, spend, and repeat, not to save or invest. Because if everyone became financially independent, the system would collapse. The government needs you to spend. Corporations need you to spend. Banks need you to borrow. The only person who benefits from saving and investing is you, and that's why no one teaches you to do it. Here's another lie. Homeownership automatically makes you wealthy. That used to be true when homes were cheap, and mortgage rates were reasonable, and property taxes were low. But now, for many people, their home is not an asset. It's a liability. It costs money every month. Maintenance, taxes, insurance, repairs. Sure, it might appreciate in value, but that gain doesn't help you until you sell. And when you do, guess what? You'll buy another expensive house. The equity doesn't make you free. It just moves with you. The emotional trap here is pride. Homeownership feels like success. It feels like you made it. But for a lot of people, it's just another form of debt disguised as progress. They become house poor, all their money tied up in something that keeps them locked into the same job just to make the payments. That's not freedom. That's financial prison with nice countertops. Let's move to something most people never question. Retirement. You're told to work for 40 years, save what you can, and then live off your savings until you die. But that model doesn't work anymore. Pensions are gone. Social Security is strained. The cost of living keeps rising. So what happens? People work longer. Retirement becomes this distant fantasy that keeps getting pushed further away. You don't need to retire at 65. You need to be free enough to choose when you work. That's real financial independence. It's not about quitting forever. It's about control, the ability to decide what you do with your time. That's the goal. But here's the twist. Most people will never get there because they spend their entire lives chasing comfort instead of freedom. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it keeps you stuck. Freedom feels scary at first, but it pays off forever. So, how do you escape? How do you get off this treadmill without losing your mind or your soul? The answer isn't to work harder. It's to work differently. You have to start thinking like an owner, not an employee. That means creating leverage. Leverage is when your effort produces results even when you're not there. It could be investments generating returns. It could be a side business that grows while you sleep. It could be digital products, rental income, or skills that compound in value over time. You need to start building systems that make money without you constantly being in the loop, because as long as you trade hours for dollars, you're stuck in the middle class cycle. And look, this doesn't mean you have to quit your job tomorrow. It means you need to shift your mindset today. Every dollar you earn has a job. It can either work for you or against you. If you spend it all, it's gone. If you invest it, it becomes an employee that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and never takes a vacation. That's how the wealthy think. Here's a reality check moment. If you're saving for your future but not investing, you're not building wealth. You're just slowly losing to inflation. Cash sitting in a savings account is like ice melting in the sun. Feels solid now, but it won't last. You have to put your money somewhere it can grow. Stocks, index funds, real estate, whatever aligns with your risk tolerance. Most people say they can't afford to invest, but the truth is, they can't afford not to, because every year you wait, the cost of freedom gets higher. Here's where it gets interesting. The same discipline that makes you a good employee, showing up, being consistent, doing the work, is the same discipline that can make you financially free. You just need to apply it differently. Consistency in investing beats intensity in working. You can't outwork a broken system, but you can outsmart it. Let's talk about priorities. The middle class spends first, saves later. The wealthy save first, spend what's left. The middle class buys liabilities and calls them assets. The wealthy buy assets and let those assets buy their luxuries. The middle class asks, can I afford the payment? The wealthy ask, does this generate income? It's the same world, just a different lens. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to become an entrepreneur or an investor overnight. That's not realistic. But everyone needs to understand leverage, ownership, and compound growth, because without those, you'll always be trading your time for survival instead of freedom. Let's end with a simple truth. The system isn't going to save you. The government won't. Your job won't. Your employer definitely won't. The only person who can save you is you. And that starts with unlearning everything you were taught about money. Stop believing that working harder will fix it. It won't. Working smarter will. Building ownership will. Prioritizing freedom over comfort will. Because the middle class lie isn't just that hard work equals success. The real lie is that following the rules guarantees safety. It doesn't. The rules were written by people who profit when you follow them, so stop trying to play a rigged game by its old rules. Build your own. Save aggressively. Invest consistently. Learn how money actually works. Build skills that compound. Own things that pay you back. And when in doubt, remember this. You don't need to look rich. You need to stop being stressed. That's the real middle class revolution.